Welcome gamers to the very quick guide for Wendy's skill tree. I'll make a bigger and better video on the main channel when I get around to it, but I want to do the boss rushes first. But before that, I'm going to do these quick guides explaining just the skill trees. So I'm not explaining Wendy's base kit, I'm just going to go over the skill tree that was just added to the live game. Let's get started. Firstly is Pip Spook Quest 1. It says Pip Spook Lost Toys aren't quite so far away. So what this does is if I accept this Pip Spook quest, the toys will spawn not so far away. So if you didn't know, when you start a Pip Spook's quest, the toys all actually do spawn in the game. They're just invisible until you get close to them. So instead of being like, for example, this far away, they'll be a bit closer. And we'll see that because we'll do all these Pip Spook skills, then we'll have to do a Pip Spook quest. Pip Spooks remember more lost toys to find. This does what it says, it spawns more toys, which means you get more Morning Glory. Then this one says Pip Spook produce more Morning Glories. So this is at the end of the quest, you'll just get more Morning Glories. So let's unlock all of this, then do a Pip Spook quest. So now once we accept this quest, all the toys will have spawned, and it wouldn't have spawned so far, so his little thing should start pulsing. It started pulsing very fast, as in we didn't have to move very far before it started pulsing. The toys spawn in a circle, so as soon as we find one toy, we need to imagine where the rest of the toys are relative to a circular shape. So here's the first one. This makes me think that we are at the top of the circle. So the circle of toys is here, I would estimate. Here it is, there's the other toy. So one toy there, one toy there. This is the top of the circle. There's one there, one there, one there. So now it looks like we're lost, but if we continue the circle, so one there, one there. Now we continue this way. Another one. So that was like the bottom of the circle. That means there's one over here somewhere. I didn't hit the side of the circle yet. Usually they spawn in a circle, but this has not been a very strict circle because I think of the way the land mass is. Because, you know, there's like land mass ends there and ends there, so it's kind of weird. But anyway, the end of the last toy, we get a bunch of Morning Glory. So you get about like, usually about 20 Morning Glory per one now. So you get quite a bit more. Before you'd get like 10, 15 or so, but now you can get like more than 20. Cool. Picnic Casket. When you unlock this, you unlock a crafting recipe in Wendy's skill tree called the Picnic Basket. You build it with 6 twigs, boards, and 4 silk. I'm going to cheat to make it though. Then once you have it, you can open it and you can store Morning Glory in it, and you can also store potions. Now in total, once you have all the skills unlocked, you do have 9 potions, so you can store all of your potions in here. So that is neat. Speaking of potions, Wendy learns how to brew a new ghostly elixir which helps Abigail quickly remember her potential. This does require forget-me-lots and 3 Morning Glory, the Morning Glory you need for all the potions. Forget-me-lots you can get from farming, they're weeds, but I'm going to cheat and make it. So you will be farming forget-me-lots. And what this does is if you give it to Abigail, you apply gas experience. It instantly levels her up to level 3. So whatever level she is, she gets instantly to level 3. This is helpful for if she dies, you can just instantly level her back up. Yes, that's a good potion, probably worth unlocking. Strong Brew says elixirs with 1 day duration will now last 2. This is very simple. Sometimes Wendy is able to squeeze extra elixirs out of the same ingredients. This one's actually really good. So I'm going to craft Nightshade Nostrum 10 times and see what happens. So that was 10 crafts and I ended up with 16 potions. I believe it's roughly a 50% chance to get extra potions out of each craft, but there's sometimes you get double potions, sometimes you get triple potions, so yeah, expect to get 50% or more potions when you craft potions. Let's continue over to Blessed Sisturn 1. The chilling aura of death preserves the petals placed in the cistern for longer. If you didn't know, Wendy has access to the cistern, requiring boards, cut stone, and ash to make, and if you have petals from flowers, you can put them in. Now what this normally does is it lets Abigail level up faster, so she gets to her max health faster, but now with the skill, these petals now take longer to spoil, so you don't have to refill it as much. Cool. Wendy's resistance to scary things is increased, and she grants some of that confidence to others nearby. If you didn't know, Wendy already has a 0.75 times sanity modifier from most sources, and this just decreases it a bit more, so whatever. But the main skill is here, Blessed Sisturn 3. Loon Tree Blossoms draw Abigail's humanity close to the constant. She becomes more resistant to the giants like the rest of the survivors, but her ghostly healing effects are slowed while she is summoned. So this skill is neat, I suppose. Depends how you play Abigail. On Lunar Island, you will find these trees. These trees drop Loon Tree Blossoms, and once you pick those up, you can put those inside the cistern. So you take the petals out and you put these in instead, and what happens is, well, Abigail gets the player tag, which means she takes basically half damage from all bosses, which is the same damage that you take. And you also have a cute little animation because Abigail's back in the constant baby, or I don't think she was ever here. But anyway, now rather than Beardra doing 150 damage to Abigail, Beardra will do like 75 damage, and that applies to all of the bosses. So look at that, only 87, so there it goes. Sorry, not 75, but 87.5. And if I just put the normal petals in, 175 damage without the Loon Tree petals in. But there is a trade-off, because when you have these petals in there and Abigail is summoned, if you try to heal her with her healing potions, she receives half the amount of healing. So she's getting healed for 10 health per second rather than 20, what Special Cure All usually does. Now you can get around this by just unsummoning her, then she gets healed by the normal amount. So whether you like this skill or not is up to you, but there you go, that's what it does. It halves damage from bosses, but halves the healing she gets when she is summoned. It's only healing while she is summoned, and it's only healing from like the potions. Her natural healing of 1 health per second is still the same. Next, we have Morning Glory 1, begin the journey of revival with butterflies and moths. So with this skill unlocked, you unlock 2 crafting recipes, a butterfly and a moon moth. Using 1 butterfly wing and 2 Morning Glory, you can just craft an alive butterfly, which means you can have Abigail killing butterflies at your base, then you could turn them back into living butterflies later on. Same thing for moon moths. This will be useful for this skill later, but for now, that's what that does. Next is Morning Glory 2. Surround yourself in ghostly nature and taste the power of the elixirs, even if not fully. So what this does is it unlocks a crafting recipe here with a 6 Morning Glory. I'm going to cheat though. And it makes you a nice little hat. Now what this hat does is you can actually drink your own potions now. So if you just drink the potion, I now have night vision. So if I change it to nighttime, oh my goodness, I can see. Now any potion effect you get from like feeding it to the hat, you lose the effect if you take the hat off. And if you take the hat off, then put it back on, you still lose the effect. So the hat has to stay on throughout the entirety. You can't just flick it on and off. So Nightshade Nostrum gives you night vision for a few minutes, I think up to a day, maybe a little bit more than that. Then Revenant Restorative heals for 40 health over time. I think it's 1 health per second, so 40 health over 40 seconds. Pretty neat, given that Revenant Restorative is only 1 Spider Gland and 1 Morning Glory. Then you've got Spectral Cure All. When you drink Spectral Cure All, it will increase your health by 5 health per second until it has healed you for 100 total health. We started at 15 health, we ended at 115 health. Amazing. Oh wait, 110 health. What the hell? What happened? Only 95 health. Sometimes it seemingly misses a tick. So it only healed me for 95 health there rather than 100, but whatever, it's meant to heal for 100. Next is Unyielding Draught. Now what this does is Bad Abigail. For example, Dragonfly slaps for 75 damage. But it blocked 50 of the damage, so I only got hit for 25, but now it's on cooldown, so I get hit for 75 damage again. The shield block doesn't work like armor, so it only blocks damage that would have actually hit your health. For example, if Dragonfly hits me now, the log suit will reduce it down to 15 damage, and then the shield blocks the entire hit, so I took no damage. But then my shield is on cooldown, so I only have the log suit like defending me from the attacks. So that's how that potion works. It's actually kind of good. So it can block 50 health every 10 seconds for about a day, I believe. Then you have Distilled Vengeance. This is the same as the last potion, except it deals damage back to your attacker. So there we go, it did 20 damage back twice, so 40 damage back in total. Then you have Vigor Mortis. Vigor Mortis makes you travel faster while you're carrying heavy objects. So normally you move at an incredibly slow pace, but this is actually kind of an acceptable pace. You could probably move the shadow pieces with this pace, but you'd rather use B-Flow. But this is still pretty fine, it's neat. And lastly, Ghastly Experience. When you drink Ghastly Experience, it increases your hunger and your sanity a little bit, but what it's meant to do fully is it decreases any max health penalty that you have. So if you died and got revived by a heart, it will fix at least partially the max health penalty that you received. So that's what Ghastly Experience does. And that's what all of the potions do on the helmet. So the next skill is Morning Glory 3. You can bring back friends, but only if they've entered the constant. So this is, you can revive other players. So what you could do now, so you have, again, a new crafting recipe. The Perennial Altar, 10 Morning Glory, 40 health, and a cut stone. You can make this, and it acts exactly the same as a meat effigy, except it's just for Wendy. And anyone can attune to it, but I think it can only be attuned to one person at a time, same as like a meat effigy. And then if you were to tragically get struck by a meteor, you got struck by meteors a bajillion miles away, you could click on this little icon up here and kabam, you have now been revived. And also, wow, cute animation, because Abigail pulls you out of the ground. Abigail revived you, no way, that's so cool. Anyway, that's what that does. No max health penalties, same as meat effigy and such. Next, we have Vengeful Ghost. When Wendy or her friends are killed, their spirit is vengeful and able to wreak havoc on the living world for a short time. This one's kind of goofy, so I'm just going to spawn myself in a couple of Wilsons. So if there was an army of spiders, oh no, oh goodness. when we die, we are vengeful ghosts for a short time. Each ghost does like 15 damage every second in an area of effect. Because I'm Wendy, I do 0.75 times damage, so 25% less damage, so that's why I'm doing 11.25. And this lasts for like 15 seconds or something. And it's neat, but yeah, it's kind of stupid, but hopefully you wouldn't die so that you don't have to use the skill. But yeah, there you go, that's what that skill does. Next we have Grave Beautification. Wendy can adorn graves with flowers to delight their resident spirits. Evil flowers no longer hold fear for Wendy. So this skill does kind of 3 things. Also, even though I don't have this skill unlocked, but because I have the Lunar Tree Blossoms in the Sisturn, I still get the little Abigail animations where she turns back into a human for a brief second. So that's notable. You don't actually need the skill to access those animations. That's pretty cool. There we go. There's the animation. I don't have the skill unlocked. So using 3 petals, you can decorate a headstone. And what this does is it spawns a friendly ghost. This friendly ghost will not quite defend you, but anything that's attacking you or you're attacking it, it will kind of attack it. So this is useful for like Bee Queen, but how do I get this gravestone to Bee Queen? Well, we'll discover soon. The other thing that decorating this headstone does is over time it will spawn evil flowers around the headstone, and as we saw with the second part of the skill, the evil flowers no longer have an insanity aura for Wendy. So if your base is covered in evil flowers, it doesn't matter. Yeah, let me just skip, see if we can get some evil flowers. There it is, an evil flower. So yeah, it grows evil flowers over time. Very cool. And also, regardless of how many headstones you decorate, for every Wendy on the server, you can only have 4 of these big spooks active at once. So if you decorate 12 gravestones, only 4 of them will be active at once. Although if you travel away from one gravestone and go close to another, that one will despawn, and then one over here would respawn, as an example. Next is Gravestones by Wendy. Wendy can put to rest the spirits of skeletons with a gravestone. She can also craft a spirit vessel to invite friendly phantoms to new homes. Just spawn myself a Wilson, and Wilson, you're gonna have to get hit by some shadow meteors, please. See ya, Wilson. And with this skill unlocked, I can use 1 cutstone and 4 dark petals. You see why the dark flowers come in now. Using 4 dark petals and a cutstone, you can make a headstone. And then you can build this headstone on top of any like player skeleton. A skeleton that was put there by a dying player. And then once you build it, you've just made, I didn't like it anyway, say lol noob. And bam, headstone with a grave called lol noob. You could then take a shovel and dig up the grave to get some fresh loot, which yeah, so you can make your own headstones now, and you can put them wherever you want. But we've also unlocked one other thing, the spirit vessel, with 1 ash and 1 broken shell. Broken shells you can get from Slurtles or hammering Pearl's shell bells that she gives you, and that's littered around her island. But then once you do make one of these, you can use it to beckon in a spirit from the gravestone. What this does, it just means you can move the gravestone. So that gravestone that I just made, I can then pick it up, store it inside the spirit vessel, then put it wherever I want. And it remembers what it looks like and whether you dug it or not, so you cannot keep farming it. Now, ultimately what this means is you would just grab a bunch of gravestones. You probably wouldn't make them. You'll just put them in the spirit vessel and then bring them to your base. And for every 1 gravestone that you want to move, you do need a spirit vessel, because as you saw, it gets consumed. So if you visit Pearl, you can get like 10 spirit vessels. You'll get like 10 broken shells, so that's 10 spirit vessels. So you can take 10 gravestones back to your base, whether you want to make a werepig farm with that, or if you just want to have graves so that you have access to pip spooks. Because of course, if you have lots of graves near your base, you have quite a high chance for a pip spook to just spawn there, which means when you want to do a pip spook quest, you don't need to travel like to the mosaic biome where there's naturally a bunch of graves. So this, I'd say, is pretty essential. Next is Team Spirit 1. Wendy can remind Abigail she's a ghost, able to be unseen by her enemies to escape bad situations. This skill is really good. So if you didn't notice, you can control Abigail a bit better with her flower. So you can unsummon her directly from her flower now, you can rile her up from her flower, and then you can soothe her, and you can hit the escape commands now, because that's the one I just unlocked. Now, what this does is actually really good. So it makes her invisible when she de-aggroes any enemy that's attacking her. So if we do this, as you guys try to charge her, then I hit escape, and then she escapes and de-aggroes Ancient Guardian. Then you escape again, and it de-aggroes again. So yeah, this gets Abigail out of trouble by de-aggroing the enemy, but it also makes her invulnerable to damage, and everything that's attacking her will just de-aggro her. Oh no, Abigail, 100 frogs, you better get out of there. and bam, they instantly de-aggro. Isn't that cool? So yeah, the escape command is super duper strong. Not that she would need to escape 100 frogs. She can easily take 100 frogs. Next is Team Spirit 2. Abigail can dash to anywhere when you need reinforcements. So you just unlock the attack at command. We're going to need those 100 frogs back. When you use attack at, Abigail will dash to where you pointed to and damage everything on the way there. And she also can't be staggered out of just not doing this attack. So if she's being completely staggered like she is now, she can still do the attack to dash through everything. This is good for getting her in or out of a fight, and also just controlling where her damage goes. So yeah, pretty neat, also very powerful. Although this skill doesn't work very well with Gestalt Abigail, but we'll get to that when we get to Gestalt Abigail. Next is Team Spirit 3. Abigail can use her powers as a spooky ghost to scare and haunt things. So this, you now have the scare command, and when you do it, aha, it scares all of them for a few seconds. So this is good if you just want to escape a situation, you could just scare them all, they run away. But where this is actually kind of useful, and the Twitch chat told me this, is in the ruins. In the ruins, you can scare all the clockwork bishops and rooks and then just kill them so they don't do that much damage, because they're going to be panicking and running around rather than attacking you back. But when you use one command, all of them go on cooldown. And the second part of the skill is she can haunt things. When you haunt things with the haunt at command, it does the same thing as if you haunted it, you the player. So if you haunt a tree, it counts as a chop. If you haunt a level 3 spider nest, it will turn into a spider queen, or has a chance to, among a few other things. Probably the most notable thing is haunting a pigman, so you can force a werepig, because these are kind of just easier to fight than a normal pigman, and it drops of course 2 meat and a pig skin, so you can make a hambat. Also, if you keep spamming scare, you can just repeatedly scare things, which is quite goofy. That's actually kind of stupid. You can just continuously scare things into not attacking you. Anyway, so that's what that does. Now, on to we'll do Shadow. We'll do Lunar Affinity first. So this one, Abigail becomes Lunar aligned and she gains some planar defense. That's kind of whatever. Then we have Lunar Sisterhood 2. Wendy can craft a super elixir infused with lunar energy that gives Abigail a boost of planar damage for its duration. Super elixirs work in parallel to regular elixirs. So this normally requires 1 pure brilliance and 3 morning glory. So you have to kill Celestial Champion and activate the overworld rifts to access this potion. But when you do apply it, it counts as a super elixir, which are elixirs which can be applied on top of normal elixirs without overriding the effect. So I can have a normal potion and a super elixir active at the same time. So there you go, she has Nightshade Nostrum and the super elixir. So as you can see, she's doing a 50 damage per hit now, so with just Nightshade Nostrum, that would be 40 damage, but the potion is making her do 10 extra damage. So that 10 damage is planar damage, so she's doing 10 extra planar damage per hit. And in this form, she attacks once per second, so that's an extra 10 DPS, which is, yeah, fine, I suppose. But then we unlock Lunar Sisterhood 3, when you can use the moon dial during a waxing or full moon to fill Abigail with lunar energy, turning her into a Gestalt. And then the moon dial can restore her ghost status during a waning or new moon. So right now it's day 14, which means we're going towards a waning or new moon, which means I can't mutate her. So during nighttime, if I mutate, you'll see the moon must be waxing. So as long as you do this before day 11, you can turn her into a Gestalt. So this is the new moon. So once we skip over that, it is now heading towards a full moon. So I can transform her. Now, what does Gestalt Abigail do? So Gestalt Abigail is a different version of Abigail, which basically does big single target damage rather than doing lots of area effect damage. Ignore the super elixir icon up here. The super elixir isn't actually active, this is just a visual bug. So during daytime, she will do 100 damage. This is a 100 damage once every 3 or 4 seconds. But of course, it's not area effect. When Abigail is Gestalt and you use the attack at command, this dash no longer damages enemies, so this dash only works when she's not a Gestalt. Like, she'll still move to the place, but she doesn't do the damage while she's traveling there. Then during dusk, her damage goes to 150. Then during nighttime, her damage goes all the way to 250. That's pretty good. 250 damage per hit, and she does a hit once every 3 or 4 seconds. But what if we combine the potion that we unlocked earlier with Gestalt Abigail? Well, the potion does something different with Gestalt Abigail. Rather than adding 10 damage per hit, it adds 100 planar damage per hit. So now at nighttime, she's doing 350 damage per hit. 100 of that damage is planar, and of course you can achieve this damage by using both potions, Nightshade Nostrum and the Lunar Potion, during daytime will still do 350 damage, making her DPS over 100. But this is single target damage, so she will never hit more than just the one enemy. And also, as you can see, she also kind of dances around and dodges a little bit. So naturally, this Abigail, you don't need to micromanage her with escape and attack at to move her away or towards a boss so she doesn't get hit as much. This Abigail will naturally not get hit as much. So I think a lot of people would probably prefer Gestalt Abigail, which is totally fair. And what this boils down to, Gestalt Abigail versus normal Abigail, if you don't need the area effect damage, then Gestalt Abigail will probably just be better. If you definitely know that you're only doing single target damage, then Gestalt Abigail is definitely better, assuming that you have both potions. I don't want to go on about it for too long. Gestalt Abigail is very good. Just if you want the area effect damage, you will miss it with Gestalt Abigail because you have no access to area effect damage now. So now we're going to move on to the shadow affinities. So the shadow affinity, of course, by the way, the lunar affinity requires Celestial Champion, and you can't have a shadow affinity, and vice versa for shadow, you require Fuel Weaver and no lunar affinity. So the first skill is like kind of the same as the planar one. She becomes shadow aligned and gets some planar defense, that's kind of whatever. But then you get this potion, Wendy can craft a super elixir infused with a shadow magic that increases Abigail's vex damage. So what you unlock is Cursed Vexation. This requires pure horror. Now what's interesting is that you can acquire pure horror very early in game. If you kill Nightmare Werepig, you can get pure horror as early as, well, you kill Nightmare Werepig, which is way faster than getting pure brilliance from a rift from after Celestial Champion. So naturally, this potion you can access way faster than the Lunar potion. Anyway, when you craft it, its effect is a lot simpler than the Lunar effect. Regardless if you're using Gestalt Abigail or normal Abigail or Shadow Abigail, which we'll get to, this potion does the same thing. So when you apply it to Abigail, her Vex will look the same, but when you punch, a little bit of black will spark out. What this does is, when the Vex is active, is it gives you 10 extra planar damage per hit. So the Lunar potion gave Abigail 10 extra planar damage per hit, but this one gives you 10 extra planar damage per hit, which naturally is better because, you know, you attack a lot faster than Abigail. And also, if you didn't know, Abigail's Vex naturally gives Wendy a 1.1 times and 1.4 times damage multiplier. So this turns my damage from, rather than being 0.75 to 1.155 times, so a little bit better, almost as good as Wigfrid kind of. But then I also do 10 extra damage on top of whatever I'm doing. So I normally do 25.5 damage, now I'm all the way up to 49.3 with a spear, with the Vex and the Super Elixir. The TLDR for these potions is the Cursed Vexation is always better unless you're using Gestalt Abigail. Then Gestalt Abigail with the Lunar potion will be about the same, but it might be better if you're attacking less. So if you're doing a lot of dodging or not engaging in combat as much, then the Lunar potion with the Gestalt Abigail might be better than using Cursed Vexation on any Abigail. But otherwise, you probably want to start with this potion because you can access it so early. And also, if you craft this potion when you have these skills active, then you reset your skill tree and you unlock all of the Lunar affinities, you can still use the Shadow potion that you crafted earlier. So you can have all the Lunar affinities with the Gestalt Abigail and use Cursed Vexation, which is very notable, which means, yeah, so that's another plus to use Cursed Vexation, because you can just keep using it even after you switch into Gestalt Abigail and before you unlock the Lunar potion. Lastly is Shadow Sisterhood 3. Dark magic is released whenever Wendy uses the murder action, filling Abigail with more power for a short time. Now this is where the skill, this skill comes in. Because with dead butterflies or butterfly wings and 2 morning glory, you can craft an alive butterfly. Now when you murder a butterfly, you unlock Shadow Abigail. Now Shadow Abigail will do more damage. Shadow Abigail gets 25 planar damage added on top of whatever damage she would do anyway. And as you can see, it didn't last very long. I think it's 8 seconds per thing that you murder. This means for most boss fights, you want to murder like 15 to 20 butterflies at once, and then she will stay Shadow Abigail for a long time. Get him, Shadow Abigail. So now she's doing 40 damage per hit, but of course we can apply Nightshade Nostrum, so then she does 40 damage plus 25, so she can do 65 damage per hit. Now this means that Shadow Abigail's like max DPS is 65 damage per second, but this is with Cursed Vexation, which gives me an extra 10 damage per hit, which is like an extra 25 damage per second. So therefore, with the Shadow Affinity, you achieve 65 DPS from Abigail and at least 20 DPS from Cursed Vexation, which means she's giving a total of at least, well, 85 damage per second, usually, with including her damage and your damage, and her damage is area of effect. Compared to Gestalt Abigail, she does need all of her potions to surpass 100 DPS, and it's only single target. So there you go, that's kind of to draw a comparison. So that's a good comparison. Shadow Abigail has a total DPS, including the potion, of about 85, and 65 of that DPS is area of effect. Whereas Gestalt Abigail, all of the damage is in her, and it's all single target, but her DPS is like 105. So there you go. This one is a better single target DPS. This one's like 15 to 20% worse, but most of the damage is area of effect. You also need to murder things to access 25 of that DPS, which is pure planar. When you murder things and she does that 25 extra damage, that's all planar damage. So that's 40 physical and 25 planar. So that's what that does. And that's Wendy's skill tree. Now I'll quickly go over a recommended skill tree. This is probably the skill tree that I would use. I will probably start with Shadow Abigail, but I'm recommending this because I think most people will prefer Gestalt Abigail over Shadow Abigail because she doesn't die quite as easily because naturally she dashes through enemies. But I would start with Shadow Abigail, then switch to Lunar Abigail later after I have Cursed Vexation potions. Otherwise, I skip these three skills, unlock all of the control skills so they're good. Gravestones at your base means you can get Pip Spooks easy. Ghastly Experience puts Abigail right back into the action after she dies. The basket is cool for carrying all the potions. Pip Spook quest just gets you more Morning Glories, because Pip Spooks only spawn every so often, so you can't just farm them constantly. And this helmet means you can use Spectral Cure Rules to heal yourself real easy, because to craft a Spectral Cure Rule, it costs 40 health, but then you can drink the potion to then heal you for 100 health, so you just profit 60 health for every one that you do. So there you go, that's Wendy's skill tree. If you've got any tips or strategies for anyone, leave them in the comments pretty please. And otherwise, look out for the Wendy skill tree and boss rush on my main channel, which will be out at some point. I don't know, the update just dropped and I'm just recording this. Anyway, bye bye. It's also worth noting that Wendy works very well with B-Flow. As you can see, a B-Flow with a War Saddle normally does 66 damage per hit. And your character's modifiers don't get applied to your B-Flow, so Wendy's 0.75 doesn't get applied to the B-Flow, but Abigail's Vex does work with the B-Flow. So I'm going from doing 66 damage to 101 damage. And so this is because Abigail does a 1.1 and a 1.4 times multiplier applying to Wendy, and Wendy's on the B-Flow, so it gets applied to the B-Flow. So B-Flow do 100 damage per hit. And if you animation cancel, you can achieve about 240 DPS if you animation cancel really well. Without animation cancelling, the DPS is like more like, well, as you can see, 197 with Abigail. But if you strip out Abigail, it's closer to like 180. And also realistically, you probably won't use a War Saddle, you'll probably use a Nightmare Saddle or the default saddle. And the planar damage from the default saddle doesn't get amplified up, so your DPS is a little bit lower, but overall Nightmare Saddle is better because, you know, better speed and such. So that's to say, Wendy has very good synergy with B-Flow. Although once you get the Void gear, like Void Scythe and all that, Void Scythe is, this is better DPS to be on your feet and fighting with Void stuff than to use a B-Flow. But I thought I'd mention it for like the early to mid game / before you get Scythe. Alright, bye.